What is discernment? How do we know what God wants us to do in life? That's the question for people in discernment or decision making. We know that God wants all of us, Christians, to be united with God, serve God, and share our gifts in service. But how? For each of us, that's different. To discern means to try to figure out what God wants us to do. How do we know? How do we find out? It's not easy. Fortunately, St. Ignatius of Loyola offers time-tested guidelines for the discernment of spirits to help us discover what God is calling us to do in the big and small decisions of our lives. While Ignatius did not invent the discernment of spirits, building on this great tradition as a master observer of the interior movements of the spiritual life, both in himself and others, he articulated very helpful guidelines for the discernment of spirits that many have found extremely helpful over the past 4.5 centuries. A key moment leading up to his conversion occurred when he was defending a castle against the French invasion and was hit by a cannonball between the legs. While convalescing from the resetting of his shattered leg, which he had rebroken and reset, so he looked better in his courtly tights, he asked for some romance novels to read. However, the only 2 books available for him to read were A Life of the Saints and A Life of Christ. St. Ignatius spent part of his time lying in bed, daydreaming about future courtly adventures and serving some unidentified lady of his dreams. When he daydreamed about these chivalrous adventures, he felt excited, but afterwards felt flat, empty, and mildly depressed. However, when he dreamt about serving God as St. Francis, St. Dominic, and the other saints he was reading about, he felt excited, but afterwards he felt consoled, happy and joyful, rather than depressed as he did after his courtly daydreams. He noticed this difference and concluded over time that God was calling him not to continue as a courtier, but to do great things in the service of God as the saints he read about did. Ignatius continued to reflect on the different spirits or interior movements he experienced, and eventually included them in his retreat manual called The Spiritual Exercises. 3 distinct times or situations for decision. Ignatius observes that in making an important decision, we tend to find ourselves in one of 3 basic situations. We tend to either 1. Feel inner clarity or certainty about what to do, or 2. We feel inner conflict about what to do, feeling pulled in different directions. For example, feeling drawn to both religious life and having a family. Or 3, there is not much of anything going on inside, and we feel clueless. If we find ourselves in the first situation, where we feel inner clarity, we're lucky. Then we know what we should do and just have to go ahead and do it. If we're not so lucky to have this inner clarity, and we're often not, then Ignatius gives the following suggestions to help us make a good, prayerful decision when we're feeling conflicted and uncertain.